On Christmas Eve, an ambitious young executive, Angela, decides to work late in her office. Her colleague, Jody, checks to see how she can help with her workload, but Angela tells her to go home. After that, Angela's coworker, Jim, approaches her to apologize for his rude behavior last time, and Angela accepts his apology. Then, Angela calls her sister, Lorraine, promising she won't be late for their family dinner. Moments later, Angela bumps into the head of security, Carl, who says he was just locking up the floors. So, Angela tells him to wait for her as she locks up her office before they take the elevator together. Carl says he's working all night, but he adds that the building will be closed for the next 3 days. When they reach the lobby, Angela says goodbye to Carl before taking another elevator to the underground parking garage, P2. She also talks to Lorraine on the phone and informs her she's already leaving the office, but their call gets cut because of the poor reception. Once Angela reaches P2 and gets in her car, she discovers the vehicle won't start. Annoyed, Angela takes her stuff from the trunk and heads back to the office, only to find the door locked. With no other choice, Angela goes to the security office to ask for help and is startled by a dog, Rocky. A security guard, Thomas, quickly takes his dog away, apologizing to Angela for what happened. Angela then asks Thomas to unlock the door to the elevator room so she can get upstairs and take a cab, making the guard look for his key cards. At the same time, Thomas offers to fix Angela's car battery, and when the woman reluctantly agrees, he goes to the back to get his charger. Afterward, Angela leads Thomas to her car, and the guard immediately gets to work. However, the car still won't start, so Angela thanks him and just asks if he can open the door to the elevator room. Angela also feels uncomfortable when Thomas asks her to share a Christmas meal with him, but the guard is just kidding and eventually opens the door for her. Angela heads to the lobby and calls for a cab before calling Lorraine to tell her what happened. Then, the taxi finally arrives, but Angela can't get out because the lobby door is locked. Irritated, Angela returns to the parking garage to ask Thomas to open the front door, but the guard is not in the security office, and she soon sees the cab leaving from the gate. As if that isn't infuriating enough, Angela's phone has no service, and the lights turn off one by one. Using her phone's light, Angela starts walking around the parking garage, only to trip and drop her belongings. Although she's hurt, Angela still picks up her phone, but Thomas attacks her from behind and covers her mouth with a cloth with chloroform. Unfortunately, Angela drops her phone, and all she can do is struggle before losing consciousness. When Angela wakes up, she finds herself sitting at the table in the security office, wearing different clothes. Thomas, who's dressed as Santa Claus, tells Angela she fell before getting some water for her. Feeling sick, Angela gets up and heads for the door, but she just trips because her foot is chained to the table. Thomas then tends to Angela as she throws up, helping her sit on her chair. As Thomas cleans up the mess, Angela can't help but notice the preparations he's made for her. Then, Thomas removes his costume and starts preparing food for Angela, and when Angela asks what happened to her clothes, the guard replies they got dirty when she fell. It isn't long before Angela gets pissed and demands to be released, but Thomas just ignores her and opens a bottle of wine. Thomas also asks Angela some questions about herself, making it clear he's interested in her. After Thomas makes a toast, Angela tells him she has someplace to be. Then, she says maybe they should just get a drink next time, but Thomas points out he's already prepared everything. Thomas continues to ignore Angela as she tells him her family is waiting for her, placing the food on the table and urging her to eat. Acting like nothing is wrong, Thomas starts talking about a book he's reading. Meanwhile, Angela says her boyfriend will come looking for her, putting Thomas in a bad mood. Despite that, Thomas asks Angela several questions about her significant other and if they plan to get married, but the guard soon realizes she doesn't really have a boyfriend. Then, Thomas mentions the names of Angela's family members, making Angela wonder how that's possible. He takes the phone and instructs Angela to call her family, saying she should tell them she's made other plans for the night. Sadly, Thomas puts the call on speakerphone and places his hands on Angela's neck as she talks to Lorraine, letting her know he'll hurt her if she alerts her sister. With no other choice, Angela informs Lorraine she went home and also talks to her mom to tell her she's sick. Angela can only cry as she lies to her mom, making Thomas happy and saying it was the best Christmas present anyone's ever given him. Of course, Thomas gives Angela a present, too, but she gets confused when she finds a videotape inside the gift box. Thomas plays the videotape, which shows Angela talking to Jim in the elevator. Then, Angela rejects Jim when he tries to make a pass at her, and Thomas pauses the video at the moment Jim realizes he made a mistake. After that, Thomas wears his duty belt and starts unlocking Angela's chain, giving the woman an opportunity to stab him in the back with a fork. Unfortunately, Thomas trips Angela before she can escape and cuffs her wrists behind her back. Ignoring the pain, Thomas takes the fork from his back and shouts at Rocky. He then helps Angela up and puts her coat on her, taking her to his car and driving to P4. There, Thomas shows Angela her coworker, Jim, who's gagged and bound to a chair. He tries giving Angela his flashlight and instructs her to hit Jim with it, saying she needs to teach him a lesson for what he did to her in the elevator. Of course, Angela refuses and says it was just a mistake, and Jim has already apologized. However, Thomas reveals he's seen Jim try to touch every woman in the building. But when Angela says Jim is a good man, the guard gets mad. Again, Angela attempts to make Thomas understand that the incident in the elevator was a misunderstanding. Exasperated, Thomas decides to beat Jim himself. But while he's busy talking to Jim, Angela struggles to open the car door. It isn't long before Thomas raises his hand to hit Jim with the flashlight, making Angela scream and beg him to stop. Sad to say, Thomas doesn't listen and proceeds to beat the guy. Without mercy, Thomas repeatedly strikes Jim in the face until he's bleeding. Then, he returns to the car and starts driving away, but Angela says they can't just leave Jim there. Annoyed, Thomas asks Angela if she likes being touched by Jim, thinking she slept with him to get a promotion. Despite Thomas' accusations, Angela insists they can't leave her colleague, so the guard drives toward Jim and rams him into the wall. Unsatisfied, Thomas hits Jim again, unaware that Angela has already unlocked her door. Angela also removes her heels when Thomas hits Jim for the third time, quickly getting out of the car and fleeing. As Thomas gets rid of Jim's body, Angela manages to return to P2. There, Angela bends over and brings her handcuffed wrists down before sliding her legs through them. With her arms now in front of her, it's easier for Angela to move and go back to the security office to retrieve her belongings. Angela gets on top of the table and carefully takes her bag, but Rocky suddenly bites it and refuses to let go. The bag eventually rips, but Angela still gets her phone. Sadly, it has no service, so she takes Thomas' key cards and escapes. Angela quickly heads to one of the exits at P1, but since it's locked, all she can do is shout for help. A homeless woman hears Angela but just ignores her, leaving her with no choice but to extend her arm outside the gate to get a signal. Angela desperately tries to call 911, only to drop her phone. Angela also breaks her nail as she tries to reach her phone, but she still tells the operator her situation and address before leaving the phone and hiding from Thomas. Then, Angela heads to the elevator room and opens the door using the key cards, getting inside the elevator and pressing the button for the lobby. However, the button doesn't work, so she just presses the P2 button before Thomas can catch up to her. At the same time, Angela turns on the emergency switch to stop the elevator between two floors. After that, Angela uses the intercom to call for help, successfully reaching the Five Brothers security. Angela talks to a man with an Asian accent and tells him she's being held against her will in her office building, adding that the culprit wants to kill her. She also urges the man to call 911. But the guy says he's sure that the person trying to kill her was just trying to help her. Realizing she's actually talking to Thomas, Angela angrily tells him that she's already called the cops and she'll stay in the elevator until they arrive. Ignoring Angela, Thomas begs her to come out and give him a chance, believing she'll grow to like him. Naturally, Angela doesn't want to talk to Thomas anymore, making the guard angry and end the call. Later on, Thomas drops a fire hose on the elevator from the upper floor, intending to flush Angela out. Soon, it starts flooding inside the elevator, and something suddenly crashes through the ceiling. Unfortunately, Angela realizes it's Carl, forcing her to use the emergency switch and make the elevator move again. The elevator stops at P3, causing the water to spill and Angela and Carl to be thrown out. Then, Angela checks on Carl, but she decides to leave when the guy doesn't move. Meanwhile, Thomas still looks for Angela, eventually seeing and following her footprints. He doesn't know that Angela is hiding under a pickup truck, and when he starts slashing the vehicle's tires, Angela quickly moves and escapes to another part of the parking garage. Moments later, Angela hides in a dark corner while Thomas plays some Christmas music. He can see Angela on one of the monitors, but he doesn't go after her. Upon hearing the song, Angela gets even more pissed and decides to take a fire axe, using it to break the security cameras before heading to the security office. Thomas is too busy singing and dancing to realize what Angela is doing, so he doesn't notice that the woman is already outside. However, Thomas is not in the security office when Angela gets inside. Instead, she sees a video playing on TV, showing Thomas touching her and saying he loves her. Enraged, Angela smashes the TV with the axe and prepares to break the other monitors, but she sees that 2 cops have arrived to patrol the area. Feeling hopeful, Angela tries talking to the cops using the speakers, only to realize they're not working. At the same time, Thomas suddenly shows up and tases Angela, rendering her unconscious. As the cops wait for the gate to open, Thomas quickly cleans the security office. He then tases Angela one more time before cleaning himself up. A few minutes later, Thomas opens the gate for the cops, who want to check the place after receiving a call about a disturbance at that address. The cop driving the car tells him to get in the back so they can give him a ride, leaving Thomas with no other choice but to close the gate. Sadly, the officers fail to see Angela's phone on the floor. After the cops take Thomas to the security office, they proceed to check the entire parking garage. They have no idea that Angela is in the trunk of her car, but the girl soon regains consciousness. Then, the cops stop at P4, unable to see Jim's bloodstains on the wall that Thomas covered. Thomas also plays a song to drown Angela's screams, and when the cops return to the security office, he assures them he didn't see anything suspicious that night. So, in the end, the officers decide to leave. Concurrently, Angela manages to open a compartment in the trunk containing some tools. She uses a tire iron to escape from the trunk and run after the officers, but it's already too late, for the cops have already left. To make things worse, Thomas finds Angela and makes Rocky chase her. Angela runs as fast as she can. Then she breaks the window of a car and hides inside the vehicle. Still, Rocky finds Angela and also gets inside the car, biting the woman in the leg. Despite the pain, Angela stabs Rocky in the head with the tire iron, and once she's sure the dog is dead, she immediately gets out of there. Using the tire iron, Angela breaks into a car rental office and calls 911 using the phone there, but the lines are busy. So, she takes several car keys and waits for an operator to answer her call, also using an envelope opener to remove her handcuffs. At that moment, Thomas finds Rocky in the car and gets mad, unable to believe that Angela is capable of hurting an animal. Seconds later, Thomas finds Angela's bloody palm print on the door of the car rental office. Thomas then goes inside and searches for Angela, but the woman is nowhere to be seen, and he realizes she's managed to call 911. Unfortunately, that doesn't stop Thomas from looking for Angela, thinking she's inside the locker. But when he opens it, Angela ambushes him from behind and sprays a chemical on his face before knocking him down. With no time to waste, Angela flees and looks for a car she can drive using the keys she got from the rental office. Thomas fails to quickly go after Angela because she locked the door using the tire iron, so Thomas just breaks the glass. Luckily, Angela's already driven off, but as she's about to exit the building, Thomas catches up to her and crashes into her car in another vehicle. Refusing to be caught again, Angela quickly drives away and looks for another way out. Of course, Thomas follows her, and it isn't long before they find themselves in a game of chicken. The two drive toward each other, but Thomas suddenly swerves, allowing Angela to head to P2. However, Angela hits a speed bump, causing her car to flip. Upon seeing that, Thomas checks on Angela and finds her unconscious. But Angela is only pretending, and she stabs Thomas in the eye with the envelope opener. Then, Angela strangles Thomas, refusing to let go until he's unconscious. She also uses Thomas' keys to remove her handcuffs and cuffs the guard to the car as he regains consciousness. After that, Angela picks up the taser that Thomas dropped and notices that gasoline is leaking from the car. Meanwhile, Thomas tries to explain his actions, asking Angela why they can't be friends before saying something offensive to her as she walks away. Because of that, Angela stops and decides to ignite the stream of gasoline using the taser, leaving Thomas there to burn. As the car explodes, the fire sprinklers suddenly turn on. An injured Angela uses Thomas' keys to open the gate at P1, going out into the snowy streets of New York. The paramedics, fire department, and cops are just arriving on the scene, and soon they find Angela. The end. Subscribe for more videos like this. Bye.